Politics have been a much debated topic for the past few years, and we see many people debating on whether or not they should have a place in other forms of media and in television. One in particular that we see is politics and sports. Politics and sports is a very common sight. We see this in the NFL, NBA, the MLB, and in the NHL, players standing up for injustices, as well as taking stands for causes that they believe in. Most American consumers see this and are almost used to this sight. However, these sort of actions are contained only at a national level. Recently, politics and sports have been broadcasted more on the global level. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, many Russian athletes have been prevented from competing in their various sports. FIFA and the UEFA have decided that the Russian national team and all Russian clubs are banned from competing, meaning that Russia will not be a part of the 2022 World Cup. My name is Samuel Chavez, and I'll be looking at how politics is impacting the lives of various athletes as well as the sport. Now, let's go back to February 25th of 2022. A day after Russia decided to invade Ukraine, the Formula One Governing Council, or the FIA, decided that they would pull the Russian Grand Prix held in Sochi. Now, Formula One is a sport that takes the teams to various countries and continents, going from South America, North America, Asia, Europe, and even in the Middle East. So, pulling the Russian Grand Prix was huge because Russia is a pretty staple race in the Formula One calendar. But this was only after many drivers voiced their concern about racing in Russia. In particular, four-time champion and German racer Sebastian Vettel, who was a very vocal advocate for human rights, claiming, "For myself, my own opinion is I should not go. I will not go." Also claiming, "I think it's wrong to race in that country." Now, Sebastian Vettel voicing his opinion allowed many other drivers to express their concerns about racing in Russia, specifically Max Verstappen, who is a Dutch driver and is the current world champion. Now, after they decided to pull the Russian Grand Prix, it was still the F1's off season. So teams were still testing their cars and, getting everyone ready. And that is when Haas, which is an American owned Formula One team, decided to drop one of its drivers, Nikita Mazepin, who is a Russian driver. Now, to really understand this case, let's look at Nikita Mazepin as a person. Nikita Mazepin's career in F1 has been riddled with controversy, despite the fact that he's only been in F1 for one season. Now, Haas is a very small team, and they don't have the budget like Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and they don't have the money to just lunge into these cars. They have to rely on their sponsors. And Haas has had a very checkered past with taking on certain sponsors. They took on this sponsor called Rich Energy Drink, which turned out to be a front for like money laundering, and so it was a very bad look on Haas, and that's why in 2021 Haas decided to take on Uralkali, a Russian fertilizer company whose biggest and main shareholder is this guy named Dmitry Mazepin, who is Nikita's father. And now they were going to take on Uralkali as a sponsor if Nikita was given, a seat to drive. And it's not like Nikita had zero racing experience. He competed in the lower levels of Formula One. There's Formula 2, Formula 3. It's just that he wasn't the best that they could have picked from those group of people. He was mainly there to bring in money, which is not a common thing in Formula One. These situations are called pay drivers, which is just they take on a guy who just brings money to the team. And so, that was already a big deal. And then soon after his announcement to the team, a video of him groping a woman surfaced on the internet and basically kind of shattered his already fragile image. And he wasn't very good either. He was a very bad driver, coming in last in almost every race. So, people didn't really like the guy. But after the 2021 season, going into 2022, we were expected to see, Nikita as a consistent figure on the grid until Russia invaded Ukraine, and then Haas decided to drop Uralkali as its main sponsor and decided to terminate Nikita Mazepin's contract entirely, meaning that he was basically left without a seat and was fired from his job. And I like to bring this case up because this is probably one of the first cases of politics being, kind of into sports, specifically with Russia and Ukraine. This is the first time that specific thing has been sort of looked at, and how athletes have been sort of discriminated because of it. Despite Nikita being a very bad driver, and he kind of was able to bring up his image slightly, but that was the first time that we've seen a Russian athlete be sort of discriminated because of that. And he was, should that have happened to him? I don't know. Was that right for, Haas to basically drop him as a driver? That is a topic that I would like to look at, because that's what we're seeing, is that because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, all these Russian athletes who have ultimately no control over what they do are being, prevented from competing in the sports, in their sports. And I like to look at this on a very objective idea, is that we look at sports and politics and we should have them separated, because, why do we bring politics and, things that shouldn't have politics in it? And then we do decide to like slightly bring it in. We've seen it with, NFL, with Colin Kaepernick, and the NBA, people, standing up for, Black Lives Matter. This is something that's very common to us as Americans, but on the global side, not as much. But it's only seen globally when, certain big events like this Russian and Ukrainian invasion happen. And my main idea is like, is this ethical, and should we be punishing these people for something that ultimately they have no control over? This is just more of a topic of question rather than a point that I'm trying to make. And I just think that this particular case is very interesting, as it's one of the first cases of this happening. So thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed.